I need to be very direct with you right now because the winter pattern that is setting up across the United States over the next 7 to 10 days is not just a continuation of what we have already seen, it is an escalation into something significantly more dangerous and more prolonged. After a major winter storm slammed more than half of the country with destructive ice and heavy snow, the atmospheric setup is now shifting into an even colder and more volatile phase with two separate Arctic blasts expected to drive temperatures well below normal across nearly the entire eastern two-thirds of the nation. What makes this particularly concerning is that snow and ice already on the ground will struggle to melt due to the incoming cold, which means hazardous travel, prolonged power outages, and infrastructure strain will persist for days and in some cases weeks. Nearly 750,000 people remain without power this morning across Tennessee, Mississippi, Texas, and Louisiana, and the Arctic air that is about to surge south will make recovery efforts significantly harder. This is not a short-term cold snap. This is a pattern-level change that will lock in bone-chilling temperatures and additional rounds of snow that could reach as far south as the Gulf Coast by the end of this week and into next weekend. The first wave of this Arctic air mass is already in motion. As of this morning, we have intense cold across the central and southern plains, the Midwest and the Ohio Valley still surging toward the southeast. Sub-zero temperatures are widespread across the Midwest from Minneapolis to Chicago. We are seeing single digits all the way down near Dallas-Fort Worth, Wichita Falls, and Abilene, and freezing temperatures extend as far south as extreme southern Texas near Brownsville and McAllen and the Gulf Coast near Tallahassee and Pensacola. For those with ice and snow on the ground, not much will melt today because most areas will remain below freezing. This is a problem because untreated roadways will stay slick, and any remaining liquid water on pavement will freeze over into a thin layer of ice, which is what we saw last night in Huntsville, Alabama, and Atlanta, Georgia, where a flash freeze caught people off guard and led to numerous accidents. By tomorrow morning, temperatures will be extremely cold. We are looking at 0 degrees in Fort Smith, Arkansas. Little Rock will be in the teens or single digits. All across the Northeast, from Boston to New York City to Philadelphia, we will be sub-zero. Burlington, Vermont could be 20 degrees below zero. Cleveland and Pittsburgh will be near zero. The one piece of relatively good news is that we will be above freezing tomorrow afternoon for Dallas-Fort Worth, Paris, Texas, Texarkana, and many ice storm-impacted locations across northern Louisiana. That is very good news because it is one of the only chances this entire week to get close to being above freezing in those areas. Nashville will be right on the cusp, while Kentucky and Tennessee will likely remain just below freezing. This means the melting process will be slow, and ice accumulation on power lines and tree limbs will remain in place longer than normal. Now as we move into Wednesday morning, freezing temperatures will stretch all the way to the Gulf Coast. Most of Ohio will be sub-zero. Cincinnati, Columbus, and Toledo will all be dealing with dangerous cold. Across Indiana, Fort Wayne and Indianapolis will be near or below zero. Wednesday afternoon, Tennessee, Kentucky, and northeastern Arkansas are unlikely to get above freezing. Nashville, Knoxville, Memphis, Louisville, and Lexington will all struggle to reach 32 degrees. Luckily, there will be some sunshine to help melt ice and snow, but it is not going to be enough to get rid of all of it. Problems could continue through Wednesday and into Thursday as the next Arctic air mass arrives Friday and Saturday. What I need you to understand is that the Arctic air mass we are dealing with right now will reload across Canada over the next couple of days. By Tuesday, we will have intense cold centered over the Great Lakes spinning around an upper-level low-pressure system. As we go into Wednesday and Thursday, even though things will still be below average across the southern plains and southeast, we are going to get another shot of Arctic air across much of the United States. This will be felt late Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Notice how far south that Arctic air mass will get, as far south as Florida and right along the Gulf Coast. This might set up some rare snow chances for areas that do not typically see snow. The low temperatures for Saturday morning will be extremely cold all across Texas, Alabama, Mississippi, and the Ohio Valley. By Sunday and Monday, temperatures will remain very cold with a widespread freeze possible across Florida on Sunday. This will be the first time in a long time we have had a widespread freeze almost all the way down toward Miami. Sub-zero temperatures will continue across the Northeast. This will be a much more impactful Arctic blast for the East Coast and Ohio Valley next weekend. Sunday morning, could easily be one of the coldest mornings we have seen this winter. Across the southeast, we could see single digits and teens for wind chills. Most of Florida could also be in that category, around 8 to 15 degrees in Orlando, Jacksonville, and Tallahassee. All across the Ohio Valley and Northeast, we will be dealing with bone-chilling cold all week, but Sunday will definitely take the cake. Over the next several days, temperatures will remain very below average, still around 20 to 30 degrees below normal from Dallas-Fort Worth and Austin, Texas into the Northeast. Tuesday and Wednesday, that cold air will continue to sit across anywhere east of the Rockies. In the Ohio Valley, temperatures could drop as low as 10 degrees below zero by late Tuesday night. Thursday and Friday is when that Arctic air loads and drops all the way to the Gulf Coast. This could shatter records in the mid-Atlantic and Ohio Valley. Areas like Maryland and Pennsylvania could be as much as 50 degrees below average. While that happens, we will have a surge of Arctic air toward the Gulf Coast, with most areas down toward Florida and near Mobile as much as 30 degrees below normal for this time of year. Now, what comes after the current cold is where things start to get more interesting in terms of additional precipitation. The next few days will be quieter than what we have been dealing with all weekend. Tuesday will bring a small Alberta clipper across the Great Lakes with light to moderate snow possible in Michigan and the Northeast, but nothing significant, maybe just a couple of inches. Lake effect snow bands off Lake Ontario or Lake Michigan Tuesday and Wednesday could stack up some snow, but that will be very localized. Wednesday will have a small atmospheric river event bringing heavier rain and snow to higher elevations in Washington, but again, very localized. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday is when things get more interesting as that Arctic air mass makes its way south. On the south side of this, we will have the possibility of some light snow in Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, perhaps into Nebraska, South Dakota, and Wyoming. Knoxville, Roanoke, Richmond, and Norfolk could all see some snow activity. Friday and Saturday is when we could see snow make its way toward the Gulf Coast. Cities like Jackson, Mississippi, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and Mobile, Alabama could be in play for some snow. The good news is this will not be as large as what we just saw. With that said, there is a possibility we could see some isolated locations get a winter storm this weekend. It is not impossible. Right now, the GFS model Friday night shows the possibility of an offshore low developing just east of North Carolina that might bring snowfall to North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. Raleigh, Charlotte, Columbia, and Charleston could all see some accumulation. That is better than freezing rain in these areas. Further west, there could be snow flurries in Oklahoma and Texas, possibly affecting Oklahoma City, Tulsa, and the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. By Saturday, we could see snow develop over the Carolinas and into southern Virginia. There is even a possibility of snow right along the Gulf Coast if we get enough moisture from the Gulf. It will depend on the evolution of how our high-pressure system develops and how far south it goes, and exactly where it positions near the surface, and also if we get some sort of offshore low-pressure system. If one of those two things happens, we definitely have a possibility of snow. Right now, the GFS model shows mainly an East Coast system. As of right now, it has been back and forth between having a Gulf Coast event and an East Coast event. There is a possibility this weekend we could see some snow, but for now, there is no major winter storm on the horizon. Nothing as massive as what we just saw, but at least something to keep an eye on as we get closer to the end of the week. I am not ready to lock this part of the forecast in yet. Confidence is increasing on the overall cold pattern, but the exact track and intensity of any snow producers late this week into the weekend is still up in the air. There is still room for this to organize into something more significant, or it could stay disorganized and just bring light scattered snow showers. Probabilities of at least 1 inch of accumulating snowfall next weekend show odds ranging from 20 to 40% in the mid-Atlantic, with the highest probabilities in the higher elevations. Toward the Gulf Coast, we are around a 3% chance. Those odds can change as we get closer to this event happening. What I want to emphasize is that this is not just one cold shot and done. This is a prolonged pattern change. The cold air will be persistent. It will reload. It will surge south again and again. For areas still dealing with power outages from the previous ice storm, particularly in and around Nashville, Memphis, Jackson, Mississippi, and Shreveport, this extended cold will make things significantly more dangerous. When you combine life-threatening cold with no heat and no power, that becomes a survival situation very quickly. That is why I keep emphasizing the infrastructure concerns. Recovery crews will be working in brutal conditions. Power restoration will take longer. Areas that might normally see ice melt off within a day or two are going to see it stick around for a week or longer. Tree damage and downed power lines will remain a hazard for an extended period. I want to thank you for putting your trust in me and my team for the latest weather information regarding this pattern shift. This is a significant and dangerous setup, and I will continue to keep you updated as new information becomes available. Make sure you are prepared for extended cold, check on friends and family who may be vulnerable, and stay aware of changing conditions as we move through this week. We will have another update either tomorrow or Wednesday with more details on the potential for additional snow late week. Stay tuned.